morning, traders and investors. I'm Joel L. Connon, and welcome to PremarketInfo.com.
And I'm Dennis Dick. On today's show, we'll look at these unemployment data that's going to come out at 8:30. We'll give you a preview for you early morning traders. KCG continues to decline. It actually traded down to $1.85 last night, is bouncing back up from that level a little bit. We'll discuss earnings report from Procter & Gamble, Viacom, EOG, and NYX has earnings as well coming out. And also earnings last night from LinkedIn and Molycorp.
Well, Unenjoyment Friday. 3 times in a row, we have tanked off that number. Have you warmed up the crystal ball, and what's it have to say?
3 times in a row, this number has come out and the market has sold off hard. Is it going to do the same thing the fourth time? That's the big question here. It's due out here at 8:30, so it will be interesting to see which way the market goes. We are up ahead of it, though, here, Joel. We're trading up over 11 points right now. Some strength overseas.
Okay, I'd keep an eye on 1369.50, the intraday high from yesterday. We break below there. We're going to go straight to the close at 1362 and perhaps test that Globex low. Going back on the upside, you have resistance in there, but nothing looms larger than the 1387.50, which was Monday's highs. So a lot of room for this thing to bounce around before, during, and after the number.
Yeah, it's key to keep an eye on those resistance levels because there's a lot of high-frequency traders that will move the prices around, but they also are technical high-frequency traders as well. So you know that 1387, there was resistance there before. If it does start to pop, that's where it could have a little bit of a stall unless they really blow the number away. But the strength is coming this morning. You're seeing a lot of these European banks. Deutsche Bank is trading up over $2. You've got Barclays trading up. These are your big movers. They're moving up overseas. Obviously, ECB had their decision there yesterday. Market kind of still digesting it, but it seems to like it, these European banks anyways.
Yeah, Deutsche Bank, they must have listened to our show the other day and wanted me to make me look bad saying these things were just skimming along the bottom. But still, relative to the U.S. market, these things are still, down in the trough considering the rally that the U.S. markets have had.
Yeah, these things still don't look pretty on the overall charts. They've been straight down like we've been saying for months. It seems like every time they do have a rally, they find more sellers and eventually do make new lows. Eventually, you hope that trend's going to be broken. They actually will solve the problems over there, but it's been 3 years we've been talking about solving the problems over there. I don't know if they're ever going to get the problem solved in Europe. Procter & Gamble had earnings here this morning. It's actually had been trading a little bit all over the place here on very light volume. We traded as high as $65. We're trading at $64.10 right now, so I don't know if they can decide. They seem to like the earnings, they just don't know how much they like the earnings.
Yeah, look at this like on a daily chart for a low beta stock. This is about as discombobulated chart as you're going to get. Gaps all over the place. You had the big rally on the Ackman revelation that he was pursuing interest in the company. That took it, way off the $60 level. Looking at the pre-market activity, I'd bet you Labatt's Blue Light we don't get back up to 65. And coming back on the downside, we've traded as low as when they came out initially, we were at 63.51 when we got the pop, but the low after the move up to 65 has been 64. So where this thing goes between 64 and 65 is pretty much a coin flip.
Well, keep an eye on the range from 2 days ago. Interesting enough, we got as high as 64.97. We opened up at 64.87 2 days ago. We topped on the pre-market here just on light volume at 65. So obviously there seems to be some sellers in that 65 area. Big round hole number, probably some institutions kicking around there. So you know the high frequency traders be sitting in front of them in the 64.90s. So I think if the thing goes and starts to rally off the hop, 64.90s could put a lid on it just for the start. Starts to take out that 65 level, then it could move higher. If it does, and then look at the range in the bottom, that range was 63.90 from 2 days ago. So some nice parameters there. Obviously, we'd like to see it hold that 64 area if you're going to remain bullish the stock. Viacom also reported here, VIAB. It actually has only traded 100 shares down $3. I think somebody overshot there. I don't think it's going to open down $3. This is a ridiculously low beta stock. It usually doesn't move around hardly at all. So on 100 shares being down 3 points, I'm not putting really much weight into that.
Is that a straight print or was that a full print there?
100 shares trade on
100
INET
shares.
42.83 just at 7:42 Eastern this morning, so just after the report.
Well, looking at yesterday's range, obviously we're quite a ways from the bottom. If the numbers aren't that good, you get any rally back up to that 45, 55 and a half area. That should be good resistance now. Looking at the charts, you got to go way out to look at this stock. I mean, it is just this stock looks like a yo-yo. Really been holding this $45 level for months, and now we broke below there. So this could be in for a free fall.
Yeah, it could be. Remember there's the other one too, VIA. It's got two listings there. VIAB is the more traded one, but VIA also trades as well. No trades to report on that one yet, but the stocks do usually typically follow each other. Although in this case, VIA has kind of been coming down and VIAB hasn't been coming down as much. For use share class arbitrage players out there. That's interesting that the VIA has been going down a little bit more than the VIAB. But regardless, Joel's giving you a pretty good. I think that 45 area, which was support before, probably becomes resistance. EOG also reported earnings. The stock is trading up significantly here this morning, but on very light volume as well. $99.80 for 100 shares, and just trade a little bit below there, 97.95. So really not a heck of a lot of volume on this one either.
Yeah, there's a real good level up there at the 101.47 to 101.62 area. Those were the highs from Friday and from Monday. So if things really get going, expect a whole host of sellers there. Also, the fact that it's up, over $3.50 on 200 shares, you get a nice round number like 100, and I bet you'll see some offers there.
Like why do those, and just to expand on that, like why those 100, we said it before, but for you newer listeners out there, the big round whole numbers just seem to work because, to be honest with you, people are just rational people or institutions. They just throw out easy numbers like, okay, I'll sell 10,000 shares at 100. I'll sell 10,000 shares at 101. When you get those big round whole numbers, you get a few institutions doing that, or you even get retail traders doing that, and it can create a resistance level because there's too many people that have just sewn out the same psychological number of 100, and that's why sometimes those numbers can have relevance, even though it seems ridiculously obvious.
Why don't they call their broker and sell me 10,000 at 99.9999?
That's what you're looking at, is with those high frequency internalizers when they're stepping in front of those institutional sellers at 100. So that's
and also you may have someone painting a tape here with a 200 share print getting it up 3.70.
Yeah, and painting the tape for you new listeners too. Basically, if you've got a huge position, let's say you were coming in long, you're some big hedge fund, you're long like 50,000 shares of this. You buy a couple hundred shares up in the pre-market to make it look like, oh, they like the earnings, it's strong. The couple hundred shares doesn't change your average cost base at all, but it's making the stock look better, and that's called painting the tape after the earnings report. So a lot of times people will try to trade their position and make it look better after the earnings, try to get some momentum going their way, and then when the real liquidity comes in at 9:30, then they've set a pricing point higher and they can maybe dump into that liquidity. That would be the way that game is played. So you always want to be aware, and that's why we always say when there's only 100, 200 shares, it's really hard to put a lot of weight into that. LinkedIn reported last night, LNKD. The stock is rallying significantly. I was looking at the earnings. I was like, oh, 16 cents versus 16. Maybe they're going to whip it. But then they raised revenue estimates, and the stock is rallying. Did they? Where was the range there last night on LinkedIn?
Yeah, there was a pretty good range in that stock. We got as high as 103 even.
Yeah.
But interesting.
How low did we get?
Yeah, I want to let you know right now that we are trading at we had a 1009 low, 100.09.
Okay.
Well, we really been holding this 101 level.
But what about last night, Joel? Do you have the after the earnings report? Because it closed at 93.51, so the pre-market low is 100.09. Do you have the low from last night there as well, kicking around on your software there somewhere?
kicking around on my software. Going back last night, well, the 109 was at 6:25 a.m. So we'll go back a little bit. In the pre-market, I see a trade at
After hours.
99.98. So
Uh-huh.
that's been the low. 98.98 and 98.99
So they've liked
was
this
a
report
level.
and it's been
Yeah, they
popping.
like to report, but what I want to stress to our traders here is we bounced up to 103. We've come down 2 points off that level. We're holding 101. The stock is up $8. If it takes out 101, I, Katie, bar the door. You're going to 99.
Yeah, that's a big level there too. It's just interesting because all these social media stocks have been getting sold off on earnings. Here's one that only meets estimates, but they rally it on a slight revenue raise. So LinkedIn is doing some stuff right, obviously. I don't know why the market seems to still love this one. They hate Facebook, they hate Singa, they hate a lot of these social media stocks, but they don't mind LinkedIn. And here it is trading up 8 points on just a slight revenue raise. So it's an interesting market, almost hard to get a handle on sometimes trying to figure it because if you were thinking, oh, they've been selling Facebook, you were probably thinking that they're going to sell LinkedIn off this too. Well, you'd be dead wrong on that because LinkedIn is popping up. This one will.
Do you know what the big difference is between those companies that you just mentioned, LinkedIn, Zynga, and Facebook? What the big difference
What's
with
the big
LinkedIn
difference
is?
there, Joel?
They got a subscription. You can get the
Premium
free is
service.
free, free is good,
Yeah.
but they also have subscription rates for people. So they brought in the audience and then they started charging them money. When's Zuckerberg gonna wake up and do something like that?
I think the concern always with the Facebook is just the fact that if he does that, he'll lose so many users that the whole platform itself, because you're on there because all your other friends are on there. It's like, we always say market liquidity begets liquidity. It's
Now
the
you're
same thing
saying that
with
I don't
this.
have any friends because I'm not on there. Are you my only friend?
I don't know. But liquidity begets liquidity, and friends beget more friends. And if you lose some friends off that Facebook by starting to charge for the platform, you might lose some of your other ones too. I think that's the overall concern. I know what you had mentioned before is why not charge a premium service to just some users that want to do some different stuff on there and want to have some upgraded service. You could have a basic service that's free for everyone, but then maybe they should start charging for some upgraded services if you want to, I don't know, play games or do different things on there. I always thought, like we were saying too, with the Groupon, I don't know why they don't start, marketing out and doing like a Groupon model there too, where they could do online couponing to all their users. I mean, they know what their users like. They have more information on all their user base than anyone else. There seems like there should be a lot of ways to monetize it, but they just can't figure it out.
Or maybe they know what robots like because it's been robots that have been clicking on those
Yeah,
likes.
did you see that from a couple of days ago? I think we were talking about on the show click bots. They were saying allegations. One little company was saying that basically 80% of their clicks that were coming off Facebook they had deemed were coming from robots and not real people. They didn't know if it was Facebook behind that or who was behind that, but these click bots were driving up the advertising revenue. I think that's why you've seen Facebook sell off the last 2 or 3 days too, was just those allegations that there's robots clicking on their advertising and driving up the cost for their advertisers. So crazy stuff in this world. Robots everywhere. Obviously, we had the whole Knight debacle there too. And Knight actually still looking ugly on the charts, but has come back. Joel, how low did this thing get last night after hours?
Buck 80.
A buck 80. It got down. Was it buck 80 or buck 85? It's shown buck 80.
Uh,
Buck 85 is what I'm seeing. Either way, dollar 80, dollar 85. This thing got down to after hours, just after the close last night. Has rallied back up nicely now, trading $2.62. I mean, if you bought this thing 2 days ago, you don't give a crap that it just rallied 60 cents when it just fell from $10 2 days ago. But regardless, if you bought it last night after hours at $2, you're already up 20% on your investment.
yeah, and just to harken back to what we talk about in some of these stocks as far as like the volume associated with that sell-off yesterday in Night was nothing to sneeze at. That was some substantial volume in that,
Everybody
and
was
there were
chucking it.
people that they were hitting the sell button,
Yep.
they wanted out, they were hitting the short button, they were saying this is bad. $440 million and because of a mistake like that. I mean, a lot of people obviously have a target of zero on this company.
I think the overall concern is that you start getting, other clients that they're working with pulling, obviously
Hmm?
out because they're concerned about the viability of the company. And obviously, Knight, it's their connections that they really make money with. They're connected well with a lot of brokerage houses. And if some of those other brokerage houses start pulling their connections and start doing business elsewhere or sending order flow elsewhere, that hurts their bottom line too. So this 440 million, put in perspective, is like 3 years of earnings from Knight. So they lost 3 years of earnings in one day, but they've
One
tarnished the whole
day, one
reputation
day,
in
one.
29 minutes. They
Okay,
lost
thank you.
3 years of earnings in 29 minutes on a bad algo. They've tarnished their reputation badly. So I think you do have some of those relationships are tarnished here now. So it's not just a matter that you just lose. You can't say, oh, well, they lost 440, so you should knock 440 million off, not 650 million, because that's how much the market cap has fell. So it looks like, oh, they've sold it off 200 million more. I don't think so. I think they've just tarnished so many of those relationships that now they may not get as much order flow from other brokerage houses as they were, and that's where they make a lot of their money, is with that other order flow. So it's crazy. It's a hard thing to say here whether this company is going to even be able to survive here or not. But at 259, it's like an option. You're basically buying the stock. It's a lottery ticket. Don't think though it has to come back. I guess it could go to zero, but it could also get and get those relationships back and start making good money again. And it could be a deal down here. It's really hard to say. So I'm just sitting back. I don't think I want to participate in this because it's more like a coin flip to me.
Okay, is that all our earnings for today?
Molly Corp here, MCP, also had earnings. Stock is trading down substantially here. Was trading down after hours after the report, trading 13.47 right now after closing at 16.07. This is a stock that has been absolutely murdered here for the last 4 months. Was trading over 36 bucks here back in April. It's trading 13 now. Is this thing going to ever find a bottom?
1435 was the bottom. Did that get well, that was yesterday. Did
Two
it get
days ago, it got down to 14.35. Now it's 13.45.
did it get knighted that day, or did it just really go down on its own like that?
That's a good
I don't know if it
question.
was
No,
one.
you know what? It did get knighted. I didn't even notice that one. You can see, it's funny, an analogy there. It's become a verb now. It got knighted here. It looks like it was trading around 17, sold out to 14 and a half, and then rallied it all the way back to 17. Maybe Knight was just previewing this, though, and they knew they were selling it off ahead of time, but man, obviously if Knight sold it down there, they'd actually be up in this position now, but they had said they covered everything, so I guess they didn't make money on this. But regardless, you can just see the Knight debacle there as it sold. The computer sold off the stock for 29 minutes straight, and then when the computer got done selling, then the stock started to rally as the natural buyers came back in to put the price back to where it really belonged at that time. But obviously belonged lower, and Knight seemed to be right on that one.
Okay, August of 2010, the stock traded down to $12.60. So far in the pre-market, you have a low at 13.20, kind of creeping up off that 13.20 level. So I think shorts will be looking to bring this thing in anywhere between 13.20 and 12.60. Look for big buyers there. If you are taking a short position in that area, have a stop in there in the upside, because there's nothing but air up to this thing at least until 14.50.
Well, we've got the unemployment data coming out just shortly here, so we'll be where do you think we're going to head? Are we going to sell straight off again here, Joel?
Well, it's just that's what everyone thinks.
I
mean,
know.
that's what happens.
Last three times, and now everybody's
the
ready
last
for that
three
trade.
times.
Yeah.
So just to fade things, I don't think so. I think we're going to pop. I think our unemployment is going to be at 8% or higher for the rest of my lifetime, and I hope that's a long time. I mean, Mitt Romney coming in with his 6%, 5% unemployment, I just don't think it's possible. I think this is a meaningless number. I think that every time we've sold off, we've come back. So, I mean, you get one good number, we're going to pop up to 1387.50, but I think the sellers are still going to be there. They're still going to be there from 1387.50 all the way up to 1400. So that's my take on the unenjoyment number. What about you?
It's so hard to say. Like, we're back down into this old range. Obviously, we had the huge sell-off there yesterday, and then today we kind of bounced. We're back up at the top end of this old 1376 area where we had talked about before. So that's coming into play all of a sudden too. 1376.75 being the high so far. So it's a number to keep an eye on there too. But you never know. It's so hard with these numbers. Obviously, the last three times we've sold off, it's probably not going to be great. But if it's okay, I think the market rallies. So we just need an okay number. But the last three times we keep getting these disaster numbers. So will be interesting to see what that number is. Anyways, that's our show for today, folks. We'll be back with you guys on a Monday.